Well, the casualty figures are in, and not only is The Marvels the biggest box office flop of the year, not only is it the biggest bomb in the history of Marvel Studios, but when future historians finish unpacking the numbers on this thing, they may well conclude that if Inchon and Heaven's Gate had a bastard love child, it would look a lot like The Marvels. Which is just another way of saying, as we pass the quarter pole and come around the back turn, this picture is still very much in the running for biggest box office disaster in the history of mankind. And of filmed entertainment, for that matter. And as the director of this abomination, a young woman named Nia DaCosta, who apparently is a strong, powerful, queer woman of color who don't need no man for nothing, she has a theory for who is to blame. But wait, I hear you say, if a movie fails miserably in theaters and loses untold hundreds of millions of dollars for the studio, isn't it fairly easy to assign the blame? Doesn't the buck stop with the director for making a film that was a total piece of shit? And the answer to that question is, shut up, racist! I find your lack of concern for woke intersectional paradigms deeply disturbing, because there's only one way the world works. If a woke intersectional film with a woke intersectional director who's a strong, powerful, queer woman of color who don't need no man for nothing fails at the box office, it has nothing to do with the objective qualities of the film as a piece of cinema. If you'd been paying attention, you'd know that's not how motion pictures are judged here in the new enlightened woke Hollywood era. You don't judge a movie based on the quality of the story or the script or the performances. You judge it on how well it advances the intersectional football toward the woke goal line. Ergo, if a film is directed by a strong, powerful woman of color and it's about strong, powerful women of color, then it is a great movie and you very much enjoyed it. You can either choose that, or you can choose being a filthy racist bigot. And there really is no middle ground here. Just ask Nia DaCosta. She will tell you all about it. She is fighting mad that everybody hates her god-awful piece of shit movie. Sorry, I meant to say her great, wonderful film that celebrates the joys of not being white and not having a penis. Now, imagine being Nia DaCosta. Is there anything in her life experience or previous body of work, such as it is, that suggests she's qualified at age 34 to be the director of a big, gigantic $250 million Marvel superhero blockbuster extravaganza? No, there is not. If Nia DaCosta is qualified to direct a major motion picture, then Hunter Biden is qualified to sit on the board of Burisma. Nia DaCosta is a diversity hire. In absolutely every conceivable sense of the term, she was given a job for which she was wildly unqualified because she's black and she's got a vagina. And the fact that she likes to have sex with other women probably didn't hurt either. It probably looked a hell of a lot like the process whereby Baghdad Buckwheat became the White House press secretary. Well, she's really going to suck at the job, but will you look at how black and female and gay she is? How can we pass that up? Now, a normal, sane person put in the same position that Nia DaCosta was, into a lofty position she did little or nothing to earn, they might be grateful. They might look around and say, today I consider myself the luckiest, strong, powerful, queer woman of color on the face of the earth. And I paraphrased that quote with all due respect to Lou Gehrig and Gary Cooper. And along with that, the realization of that luck ought to come, at least one would think, with some small bit of humility. Especially when your movie comes out and it sucks and everybody hates it. A normal, sane person might find themselves saying, you know, we made the best movie we could. I'm disappointed to hear that it wasn't more well received, but I am incredibly grateful for the opportunity that I've been given, and thank you to everybody who came out to see the film. But Nia DaCosta, it seems, is not a normal, sane person. In fact, when you hear this quote, you might be more inclined to categorize her as a bitter, raving sociopath. Here's her explanation for why her shitty movie failed. And spoiler alert, it's because of the damn toxic fans. Quote, there are some pockets where you go because you're like, I'm a super fan. I want to exist in the space of just adoration, which includes civilized critique. Then there are pockets that are really virulent and violent and racist and sexist and homophobic and all those awful things. And I choose the side of the light. That's the part of fandom I'm most attracted to. End quote. And I continue to marvel, no pun intended, At this weird language the wokesters speak that is increasingly unrecognizable as English? When was the last time you greeted a friend or a loved one? You say, "Hey, how's it going? What's up?" And they say, "I'm just existing in the space of adoration." Yeah, me either. But you can see her overarching point here, obviously. There's really no two ways about it. If you go see her shitty movie and you pretend you liked it, because diversity and inclusion and a man needs a woman like a fish needs or a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle, then you are a good person with all the correct opinions. If you don't go see her shitty movie, or worse yet, if you see her shitty movie and then go on the internet and say it was a shitty movie, well then you're a racist, sexist, uncivilized, violent homophobe. And you probably voted for Trump. Any questions? From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where the host is delighted to report we have already raised $148 on GoFundMe to help buy Brie Larson a new prosthetic ass. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. Welcome to the program. I am your eponymous host and humble servant. And I trust you've already noticed the provocative episode title. And I trust you're asking yourself, can he really do it? Can Cap distill the entire woke leftist philosophy, such as it is, down to its barest essence in just 8 dumb, arbitrary moral value judgments? And to that I say, why yes. Yes, he can. And what's more, he can reduce the 8 value judgments down to a mere 40 words, starting now. Traditional, bad. Transgressive, good. Old things, bad. New things, good. Smaller government, bad. Bigger government, good. Religion, bad. Irreligion, good. White people, bad. Non-white people, good. Sexual morality, bad. Hedonism and profligacy, good. Free speech, bad. Censorship, good. Industry, bad. Nature, good. As we know all too well, it is not a worldview that permits of a great deal of nuance, or really any nuance for that matter. Just look at that Nia DaCosta quote I read out a couple minutes ago. That's really the way these people think. There are arbitrary value judgments, and there is nothing else. There is only one extreme or the other. You either love my movie unconditionally, or you are a bad person. And that has a lot to do with the answer to a question that I'm often asked. How do woke leftist maniacs retain so much power and continue to gain more power when most of their ideas and their policy positions are totally repugnant to around 85% of the population? And the number one answer is they have achieved total ideological conformity on their side, and they enforce it very, very rigidly. There is no continuum of thought on the left like there is on the right. There are lots of liberal Republicans, but there is no longer any such thing as a conservative Democrat. You can either get with the program or be voted off Woke Island at the next tribal council meeting. Take your pick. And the other reason is institutional capture, which is a thing the left prioritizes above nearly all other things, but the right just doesn't engage in. It used to be widely understood and accepted on the left and the right alike that a democratic system of government necessarily means having to accept that sometimes your side will lose elections and be out of power. And as far as non-government institutions go, it just would never occur to people on the right to say, we have to capture all the universities, all the corporate boardrooms, all the charities, all the NGOs, all the TV networks, all the radio stations, all the local school boards, all the sports leagues, all the social media sites, and turn them all into hobby horses for our political point of view. But for people on the left, that's the way they approach every single day, and they've largely been successful in achieving the institutional capture that they set out to achieve. Now, does this mean I want the right to start playing the game the same way the left does? No. God, no. Hell no. I would very much prefer it if, to use a guitar metaphor, the left just walked over to their amplifier and turned the stark raving madness knob down from 11 to maybe 5 or 6. But I want to briefly go through and expound a little bit on each one of these 8 value judgments. First one, traditional bad, transgressive good. Now, if you're wondering what can possess hundreds of thousands of Western college students to march in support of Hamas after Hamas just got done engaging in a baby decapitating, gang-raping orgy of depravity that knows no equal in the annals of recent human history, I think the answer probably lies here. These kids have been steeping in the broth of woke politics for a sufficient number of years that it's broken their moral compass. On the most basic of levels, it should not be difficult to arrive at a conclusion that says torture and murder and gang rape are bad. I reject those things. But that ain't how wokesterism works. Wokesterism says torture and murder and gang rape are totally fine, or at least that they can be overlooked, as long as those acts are perceived as being transgressive against something traditional that I and everybody in my age group has been conditioned to hate with the white-hot burning intensity of 1,000 suns. Second one, old things bad, good things new. I mean, new things good. Because, come on, guys, everybody knows all human knowledge and understanding began in, 2007? Maybe 2008? You go back any farther than that, and everybody just has ideas that are way too unwoke and consequently problematic in the extreme. And that's why it's so very important that we pull down all the statues and paintings that depict any person who was known to harbor attitudes that would not be considered socially normative here in the year 2023. And we will do the responsible thing and replace them with statues of George Floyd and Lizzo. And Nia DaCosta, obviously. In fact, let's just pull down the Washington Monument, because who wants to see a 555-foot phallus erected to the memory of a toxic white male slaveholder anyway? And we'll replace it with the National Strong, Powerful Queer Women of Color Who Don't Need No Man for Nothing Memorial. And what should it look like? Well, if we can have a statue of a puckered anus in Palm Springs, I don't see why we can't have a statue of a big black vagina in Washington, D.C. Am I right, folks? Third one, smaller government bad, bigger government good. When's the last time you heard a Democrat, and I suppose this question could also apply to 2/3 of Republicans while we're at it, propose a solution to a problem, any problem that didn't involve spending more money and growing the government? Myself, I can only remember it happening once, when Bill Clinton ran for president in 1992, and entitlement reform was a big part of his platform. And so, with a big assist from Ross Perot, he went on to win the election on it. Hell, Clinton actually ran to the right of George Bush on that issue that year. The Republicans weren't saying one single word about entitlement reform, just as they aren't saying one single word about it here in 2023. And Bill Clinton, of all people, was the only guy saying this stuff is totally out of control, guys. We gotta fix it. We're paying too many people too damn much money to lay around making welfare babies all day. And that's still true today, although today we have flipped the script a little bit, since it's illegal aliens whose procreation we now subsidize, and not so much citizens, but does anybody talk about it? No, they do not. The central government has done nothing but grow larger, more powerful, more odious for the entire time that I have been alive. There is a critically urgent need that it be radically downsized and drastically disempowered. Who among our current leadership class is willing to say that? Nobody. Fourth one. Religion, bad. Irreligion, good. And I guess there should be an asterisk for this one, because for some bizarre reason that the host is powerless to understand, the wokesters, they really love them some Islam. And how do you know when you've gone to a place where you've just hit the absolute rock bottom of the barrel of intellectual incoherence? 3 words. Queers for Palestine. That is a real thing. If you've had a pro-Hamas march at your local university campus recently, and chances are you probably have, I guarantee you there was at least one Queers for Palestine sign being bandied about by some precious young wokester, blissfully unaware that he might as well be holding a sign that says, "Please throw me off the top of a tall building," which is exactly what would happen to you if you showed up with that sign in Gaza or the West Bank. Now, you've heard me state before my firm belief that if they threw the border open for every gangster and thug and moral reprobate in the entire Western Hemisphere to waltz on in at their leisure, which they largely have done, but bear with me, the woke Hollywood celebrities who agitated for the open borders and the unlimited migration would be the first ones with their heads mounted on spikes outside the gates of their Beverly Hills mansions. And I get much the same feeling when I see these Queers for Palestine signs. Fifth one, white people bad, non-white people good. Now, for people in my age group, this can all get terribly confusing. From our earliest memories, from the nursery to kindergarten to middle school to high school and beyond, we had it hammered into our heads relentlessly for all those years that one mustn't judge people by the color of their skin, but rather by the content of their character. All race prejudice is bad, period, full stop. The only good society is a colorblind society. And then about 5 minutes ago, we were told to forget about all that and do the complete opposite. Everything is about race. Skin color is the only thing that matters. And if a group of white people are gathered together in a place doing a thing, well, obviously that means there's some sort of racist conspiracy afoot. And don't even think about saying I'm colorblind, I don't see race, because that might have been good enough for the first 50 or 60 years you were alive, but not today, bucko. Today it makes you a dirty, filthy white supremacist. You might as well be wearing a pointy white hat. You make me sick with your unreconstructed bigotry. I bet you didn't even go see the Marvels, Mr. Jim Crow Klansman. Sixth one, sexual morality, bad. Hedonism and profligacy, good. And I have a message I want to send to the Republicans here, and I guess to pro-life conservatives more broadly. When all of your energies are directed toward banning and restricting abortion, you are doing it wrong. You are, to use a medical metaphor, too concerned with treating the symptom and not enough with eradicating the disease. Instead of being against abortion, why not be for sexual morality? Why not promote marriage and monogamy? One almost gets the sense sometimes that the pro-lifers have little interest in actually reducing the number of abortions, because let's face it, the most sensible way of going about that, isn't it by reducing the number of unwanted pregnancies? Feel free to check my math here. In a world where the other side has gone all the way down the rabbit hole of depravity by celebrating abortion as a morally praiseworthy act, why not oppose that position more forcefully? Why not point to the statistics that say unambiguously, inarguably, that kids of all races and all economic backgrounds have positive outcomes when they are raised by two parents who are married to each other? And especially when that one statistically demonstrable fact utterly destroys every argument about systemic racism causing racial disparities in outcomes. But hey, I guess never underestimate the ability of the Republicans to get all of their own arguments completely wrong, which is another component of why the left is able to remain so improbably ascendant all the time, because conservatives have chosen a bunch of damned fools for their representatives, and they seem strangely unconcerned with finding better ones. Number 7, free speech, bad. Censorship, good. It still seems strange and counterintuitive to be living in a world where the average college-aged kid thinks the central government should be micromanaging everybody's speech. But there's no way around it. That is very much where we are now, which makes it difficult to break down a current-day political paradigm along traditional left-right lines, because there were a few areas, and this is one, where the script has totally inverted itself. For years, decades, centuries even, being a free speech absolutist was seen as the most elemental ingredient of being a member in good standing of the political left. The protests against the Vietnam War that culminated with hundreds of thousands of college students marching on Washington, which rattled President Lyndon Johnson so badly that he decided to stand down and not seek re-election in 1968, those protests originated as something called the free speech movement, which had its start on the campus of Cal Berkeley in the fall of 1964, where the students felt their First Amendment rights were being unduly curtailed on campus, specifically with regard to being able to freely complain about the continuing U.S. military buildup in Southeast Asia, which feels like a hell of a long way from where we are today. Today, college kids think open-ended foreign military adventures are just swell. Today's college-age kids often sound like full-on Cold Warriors. They want to smash those Ruskies and smash them good, baby. Though something tells me their saber-rattling bellicosity might be slightly less fervent if we still had a military draft. I don't know. Just a guess. Last one. Industry bad, nature good. And here's the weird thing about today's environmentalists. They hate nature. Your average online eco-warrior in the year 2023 lives in a tiny apartment in some god-awful urban high-rise, doesn't set foot on dirt or grass during an average day, has never had a speck of dirt under his impeccably manicured fingernails, and would survive for approximately 46 seconds if forced to survive in the wild without any modern electronic conveniences. And they see no irony, none at all, about using a smartphone made almost entirely of petrochemicals to cry about the evils of fossil fuel, or using that same smartphone, which wouldn't exist without third world countries being strip mined for rare earth minerals, to decry capitalist economic exploitation. The same people who call you a monster for driving a pickup truck or an SUV, who insist you have to switch to a dumb electric car in order to save the planet, but when you ask them what their plan is for tripling the capacity of the electrical grid to accommodate all these new electrical vehicles without using oil or gas or coal or nuclear to do it, they look at you like you got a penis growing out of your forehead, because they've literally never given it one moment of thought. They are just vomiting out the religious platitudes they have been conditioned to vomit out. And I am reminded, as I often am, of that famous video where Gavin Newsom's electric car Czarina, is doing her little media event showing everybody how easy and convenient it is to charge your electric car at work, when some bastard reporter asks the question you're never supposed to ask. So where does the electricity come from? And without missing a beat, in total confidence and certitude, she says, well, from the outlet, right there. Duh. Thanks very much indeed for watching. Have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow. See you Sunday, Blast Radius 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Don't be late or you will be flogged on the quarterdeck before the assembled ship's company. Until then, do not comply. Get off my lawn.